I'm very disappointed with the conversation I had today with President Putin because I don't think he's there. I don't think he's there.
So that was the scene in Kyiv just hours after the phone call that President Trump had with Russian President and dictator Vladimir Putin. The drone attack is the biggest assault by Russia on Ukraine so far, leaving more than 24 people injured. I'm joined now by what it means for the U.S. Andrij Dobriansky, Director of Communications for the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, and retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Chris Eddy. Welcome to you both, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So we know President Zelensky called the conversation he had with President Trump yesterday important and fruitful. In that conversation, Trump reportedly told Zelensky that the U.S. wants to help with the air defense. Andrij, does it seem like we're a little all over the map here at this point with our policy when it comes to what we're doing with Ukraine and how we're going to help?
It's definitely up and down. That's the sense that I get when I have reporters from Europe and Ukraine specifically ask me, because we've had so many good moments. We've had the lows like the White Oval Office meeting, but we've had the meeting at the Vatican. We had the meeting at NATO. We had that great moment at the NATO summit where President Trump emotionally connected with a Ukrainian female journalist about her husband on the front line. And unfortunately, it's been this up and down where things might be going in the right direction in terms of actually increasing the capacity for Ukraine to show Russia that Russia needs to come to the table like President Trump wants. But in the end, we have these rogue actors like what happened in the Defense Department this week, cutting the knees out from President Trump. You know, we can all acknowledge this is a cabinet of rivals, but in some respects, we need to show the rest of the world this peace through strength that was promised, that we saw in Fordo and areas of Iran. And that's the only way we get an enemy like Putin to the table.
Good point. Yeah, I don't think the president's been up and down. I certainly think the war has, but the president has been resolute that he wants this conflict to end. Now, General, before these conversations, we know there was a decision made to pause the distribution of some of our U.S. weapons to Ukraine. Earlier this morning on Wake Up America Weekend, former National Security Council Chief of Staff Fred Fleitz gave the assessment on the situation. Listen in.
What I understand is that this decision by the Pentagon to shut off or partially shut off military aid was not coordinated through the rest of the U.S. government. The State Department didn't approve of it. The White House wasn't aware of it. And the president made statements yesterday that he appears to be prepared to reverse part of this, at least to provide Patriot missiles. What this means, we need a national security advisor to mediate differences between these agencies to make sure things like this doesn't happen.
So it sounds like we are pulling back some defensive weapons at this point, but then we're also contemplating providing more. What do you think is happening here, General, in your opinion?
Well, I would think President Trump is looking for a way to get to a ceasefire. There's really been no strategy to win. That's been my conversation over the last several years. I don't mind supporting Ukraine. It's the right thing to do. We've agreed to do that several years ago. What is the strategy to win? So are we providing more defensive weapons? Are we providing more of an offensive capability to show Putin that there is no way he could take over the rest of Ukraine? He already has a sizable amount, I think around 20% occupied right now. You try to get into Putin's head and say, what's going to drive him to the negotiating table? And that's what Trump, I think, is struggling with now. What will it take to bring Putin to that negotiating table?
Yeah, I think that's the question. Certainly, Andrij, is what is it going to take to actually bring Vladimir Putin to the table to make him see that President Trump is serious on this matter? What's your opinion on what it's going to take?
Full court press. We got to put everything on the table. That might mean additional kinds of weapons, additional kinds of intelligence, to have a strong strategic hit, maybe in Crimea, maybe somewhere. It's clear that President Putin wants to try to embarrass President Trump. Every time President Trump calls, he goes on for as long as possible. And Putin has frustrated. He's frustrated more than anything, President Trump, because President Trump's legacy around the world is definitely going to be as a peacemaker, as a deal maker. And this is something that Putin is frustrating him with. So I think not only increasing the amount of weapons, but possibly the sanctions bill that Lindsey Graham has, that can pass in an instant. And that's not only going to affect Russia directly, but also a number of countries are going to stop sending the chips that are in these drones and missiles that are attacking Ukraine right now.
Yeah, as a follow-up, Andrij, have we seen the full report of damage that happened with the recent attack in Kyiv? We know it's been the most aggressive assault this far in the war.
Yeah, just to underline that, this is the 7th largest city, Kyiv, the capital in all of Europe, and it was attacked with more drones and missiles than any other city in Europe for over 100 years. This is a serious bombardment in a way that we haven't seen possibly since the devastation of Sarajevo. So what we're talking about in terms of human casualties are the fact that, yes, civilians passed away, even with all the early alerts and the going down to the bomb shelters. But the problem is that Putin has been going in the opposite direction. Since the beginning of this year, there have been nearly 50% more drone and missile attacks against Ukraine and 38% more civilian casualties. This has got to be reversed in some way. And frankly, I'm just waiting for some kind of American version of what happened at Fordo. Some kind of statement. It's not like Mike Pompeo said, Ukraine's not asking for the 82nd Airborne, but some kind of statement needs to be made. And what's interesting to me is, even though we had that phone call with Putin and Trump has been deceptively quiet about this, much in the same way we didn't know anything before the attack on Iran.
Yeah, I don't think any American questions President Trump's commitment. He's certainly been a big supporter of getting this thing ended and certainly providing a lot of support. I'm going to give you the final word, General. Give me, with 20 seconds, give me some optimism about how we might bring this thing to a close.
Well, for the last 3 years, it's been a war of attrition, but not really military attrition like you see in traditional conduct. It's war of psychological attrition. Obviously, Putin has found a low-cost way to bombard the civilian population in crime against humanity using drones, where he doesn't have to put his own pilots at risk anymore. So even the air defense ones shooting down a few $1,000 drones, I don't know if that's going to be enough to bring Putin to the table. It's going to have to be something more dramatic or pressure from within the Russian government.
Well, gentlemen, we appreciate you both. Thank you for that report. Andrij Dobriansky and General Eddy, thank you both.
Thanks for having me.
President Trump got his Independence Day wish. He signed off on the big, beautiful bill. We'll see what lawmakers will do next now that the fireworks are over.